Donald Trump is talking faith and it's getting a mixed reaction. He enjoyed a positive reception at Liberty University yesterday, a bastion of evangelicalism, but some are questioning if his faith talk is real or just talk. They even point to a mistake that he made referring to a book of the Bible, calling it 2 Corinthians instead of 2 Corinthians. David Brody interviewed Trump yesterday and he joins us now for more. David, you asked Donald about 2 Corinthians. What is that? What did he say about all that?
Well, yes, I did. And as a matter of fact, it was the first question. And I said, so do you want to clear that up at all? And he said, well, I've heard it both ways, but you're right. I should have said 2 Corinthians, and so he did dial it back in the interview. We've posted the clip online. You can take a look at it. But clearly, he's not as versed in the Bible as people think. What a shock, Charlene. Oh. Breaking news. This just in. But look, he's not a guy that is probably going to win the votes to become senior pastor of any megachurch. But he's running for president of the United States, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Not a theologian for sure. Well, overall, how was his reception at Liberty University yesterday?
I thought it was pretty good, actually. I mean, a lot of applause, especially when he talked about political correctness, or the lack of political correctness out there. And he also talked about ISIS and really getting tough with radical Islamic terrorism. That garnered quite a few applause. And so I think overall it was received well. At some level, you have to give Donald Trump some credit for going to Liberty University in the first place. I know a lot of people will think he's, quote, pandering. Quite frankly, I don't think that it's that at all. I mean, look, he was there in 2012 when he was not running for president, the host of Jerry Falwell Jr. down there. And so, he has a relationship with the Falwell family, and he wanted to make good on that at Liberty.
Okay, and you recently, David, wrote an op-ed in USA Today about Trump's appeal to evangelicals. Give us the breakdown on that.
Well, there's so much to unpack to the point where we'll all probably end up in therapy at some point trying to figure all of this out. But I will say this, evangelicals operate in a world of biblical absolutes. In other words, Jesus, the only way to heaven, and the Bible, the inerrant word of God. And then you have Donald Trump. He also operates in a world of absolutes. In other words, well, maybe some people say my way or the highway, but the way he sees it, right and wrong, good versus evil, all of that. Well, evangelicals, as you know, see the world very much the same way. Now, evangelicals are persecuted many times for their faith, not just what we're seeing overseas, obviously, but when they speak up boldly for Christ, they are ridiculed in public. Well, Donald Trump lives in an absolute world, and he's ridiculed as well. And I think there is some sort of kinship that should end up on the Dr. Phil show at some point. It is a wild scene in terms of how this has all come together. But look, Charlene, the reality is this. There is a huge block of evangelical voters that are sick and tired of politicians. And Donald Trump comes along. He's not the same type of guy that everybody else sees, and so, or that they see, and so he's resonating to a degree.
Well, not all evangelicals agree with Donald Trump. For example, Dr. Russell Moore of the Southern Baptist Convention was tweeting during the Liberty speech, and here's what he had to say. Evangelicals can love a golden calf as long as Aaron promises to make Mexico pay for it. And another one reads, this would be hilarious if it weren't so counter to the mission of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So what's behind this evangelical opposition to Trump?
Well, there are a lot of folks for many, many years, actually. It goes back to, well, you can even go back before Mike Huckabee and Rick Santorum. But there are a lot of evangelical voters that want, obviously, a strong Christian man in the White House. It makes sense. It's been happening for a very long time. And along comes Donald Trump, and things are a bit different because we're living in a very different time now, not just from a deteriorating culture standpoint, but America has gone down the tubes so much that they believe, some of these evangelicals believe, that Trump can actually make a difference. But as it relates to Russell Moore, look, there are a lot of folks that want to see a strong Christian in the White House. Ted Cruz is getting a lot of those votes. Remember, Charlene, evangelicals are not a monolithic group. So when we say evangelicals are supporting Donald Trump, well, yes and no. There are many that do, many that don't. And so it's somewhat of a mixed bag.
Indeed. David Brody, as always, a great job. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Charlene.
You're welcome.